Okay, hi, welcome to my journey. Alright, we did it! Okay, we blew up the kayak. We had to do it by manually because I lost the adapters to the air compressor. I mean, I must have left it at the house. But anyway, we got out there. We floated around, went to the other side of the lake over there. Then I started realizing one side of the kayak was deflating. Oh my gosh, I was panicking. I'm like, oh, please, 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 don't deflate until I get a chance to get back to land. So I got back to land and I put a hustle on it. I even gave myself a blister right there. Yeah. And, but we did it, right? We did it. We did that. We went out there in the lake. We got our exercise on. Yeah. It was beautiful. I don't know. I'm not going to be able to use this kayak again unless I find out where this slow leak is, because it's a slow leak. It's not a fast leak. It could have happened while I was out there. Okay? Because there was a time that I felt like, ooh, did something bump me, right? And then, of course, my mind was, if something did bump me, please don't let it, deflate my my kayak. So I'm headed back to the house now. Okay, but it was a successful trip. Only thing is while I was out there, it started deflating. And I guess, it could have been because I hit a branch. That's the one thing I don't like about being out there on something that's like an inflatable, because they can't deflate, right? And this happened right as a boat was going by. And sometimes when a boat goes by the water, it shifts levels without you, even knowing it. But I remember hearing a boom, right? And I was like, did I hit something? And then all of a sudden, I started noticing the right side of my kayak start to, get soft. And I'm like, okay, time to go back, right? And, of course, praying like, Lord, don't let it deflate faster than I can get back to land, right? Because I'm like, I got my other phone in here, and, and I don't want it to sink. And I had seen where somebody had an inflatable. I don't know what it was, but it was an inflatable that got deflated and then tossed over there on shore on the other side of the lake over there. And I was like, that ain't gonna be me, right? That ain't gonna be me, right? We'll speak that into existence right here and now. Okay. So we did get a little exercise. We got a small blister injury, and got to enjoy some sun. Got a chance to get outside. I didn't really have no dialogue with anybody else that was out there, but I was glad they were out there. Because I was out there by myself, and if something happened, I felt like I could always, swim to help or something. Yeah. Something, okay? So it's 7 o'clock now, and I guess I won't be able to do that anytime soon anymore, because wherever that split was, I couldn't see, but I could tell, I heard something, I felt something, I thought I had ran into something or that something had ran into me, and then next thing I know, the right side of my canoe started deflating. Yeah, fortunately, I had a life jacket on. That was a beautiful thing. Shit, the water was warm as hell. And hell is hot. Yeah. I'm glad I was able to do it. I wish it was something that, was starting a new trend that I can do, but it's not going to be a new trend. The last time I used that canoe, I was down at White Rock and I was paddling in the back, in the creek areas behind Whitewater Lake. It was beautiful because it was all these trees, and I was just rowing and floating, and it was a beautiful thing. But I'm thinking I'm probably gonna have to invest in something else. I mean, the one thing I did like about being in the canoe was I had enough room to lay down a little bit, lay back a little bit. In the hard canoes, you're not going to be able to do that. You're pretty much going to have to be sitting up. Yeah, period. Unless you get a kayak paddleboard. And on a kayak paddleboard, I don't know. It looked interesting. It's just like being on a floating, platform. That's what it's like, a paddleboard, but up until it was time to get out of the actual kayak, I pretty much didn't get wet. Right? And then when I was getting out, that's when I got wet. But for the most part, I was dry. So I don't know. I think I would want to get like a little blow-up dinghy, before getting something like a paddleboard. And they want to say, the paddleboard is really nice, and if it's big enough, you can put your dog and all kinds of things on top of it, but that's not going to stop that stuff from sliding off into the water. It's not going to stop you from sliding off into the water. And it's definitely not going to stop the water from flowing over onto the paddleboard. Which, in a canoe, inside of the canoe is fairly dry unless you have a leak or unless water just happened to get in there. Because sometimes, you do have to get wet, getting the water, getting the boat into the water and getting the boat out of the water. You're going to get wet. But it was fun. I'm telling you, it was fun. And, I wish I could have been out there longer and under, less stress of having to get back, before it deflated. But honestly, I believe I've had that blow up canoe for about a good 10 years. So even though I hadn't used it that much, it still lasted a long time. Now, I did go around to some places to see how much, a paddleboard was, how much some canoes are. Now I have a rack on top of the car. I probably could put a canoe up there. I do enjoy canoeing. It reminds me when I was back in Seattle, how, canoeing across the Washington Lake was, my dream. So, let's see. I did cut up the rotisserie chicken that I bought from Sam's. I could probably make a wrap with that chicken with some spinach, cheese. Yeah, that's what I could do. And then get that all eaten up. Thinking about boiling a couple of eggs and also making some chicken salad. Or maybe some macaroni chicken salad. Yeah. I'll tell you, if anybody know how to doctor something up, I do. I'll change it in a minute. Boost the calories before you know it. But I did get some exercise. I got on the lake before it got too crowded. And because tomorrow they're supposed to have the fireworks. So, there might be people out on the lake and stuff, on their boats, their actual boats, so they can watch the fireworks. I'll be at home making sure that, the animals stay calm. Because, all of that noise and shit, freaks them the hell out. Well, it freaks Snoopy out. This is the first time that I'm actually seeing it with Gracie. because, like I said, I know I had blown up this raft one time, and it stayed inflated. And as I was replaying my whole, time out there, I think I remember the time where it may have gotten punctured or torn or something like that. So it's not like it wasn't good at one time. And the time that it was happening, like I said, was a time that, I was experiencing waves, from a boat going by. And so at first I thought, well, it was just a wave that had kind of hit the boat, the boat the wrong way. But then, as I was looking down and paddling, I was like, wait a minute, this side looks like it's, deflating a little bit. And that's another good thing about this air, and inflatable kayak is even though, it got punctured, which is bad, but when it did get punctured, it just punctured one section, right? It wasn't like once it got punctured, then the whole thing was gonna sink and yeah. So, and I think that's, because the bottom was still good, the other side was still good, and then there was little inflatables at the front and at the back. So, yeah, I mean, I was scared to do it, and I probably could have cut it short, but then once I got used to being out there, I was like, oh, let me see how far I can go, and then I got over there by some trees, and then was getting ready to turn around, and a boat came by, and then that's when I heard a puncture or pop or something. I felt something. I thought something hit the boat. And sure enough, whatever it was, it started my boat deflating. And that's how the cookie crumbles about that one. Now, is it possible to find where it was leaking at and patch it up? It's possible. It's possible. But I couldn't see where it was leaking out. But there was some bubbles. I did have a trail of bubbles behind me, and I don't think it was, just my paddling that caused the bubbles. I think it was air bubbles coming out of the boat. Okay, so yeah, what an adventure! I'm telling you, it was a great adventure. Now I'm feeling like a root beer float. I'll go to Aldi's, get some eggs and some ice cream, and get back to the house. That's what I'm gonna do. I guess what I hate most of all is that it was all of that preparation and getting myself all psyched up and stuff, only to have it happen one time, right? And now, if I do it again, it will be because I repaired the one that I got, or I got another one. So yeah, to get a paddle board, you know, you're talking at least $175. And I think similarly, a kayak might be similar to that. One of those small, inflatable like boats. Last time I checked, they were like $90. But that was a while. That was before big time inflation hit us. Yeah. We'll see.